Welcome to Prison, written by Leonard E. Love. Very important message. Before you read Welcome to Prison, I have to say the following, especially to those currently involved in criminal activity. If you or someone you know is in the streets, I beg you to listen to what I'm about to tell you, then call, text, email, or somehow contact those family members, children, loved ones, or friends and pass this critical information along to them. They say the game is to be sold, not told. Well, I, along with thousands of other men and women, have paid dearly and sold our lives to the federal government because nobody told us the truth. I have paid my dues and can tell you the truth. The streets, aka the game, don't love, care, or give a F about you. If they did, prisons would be empty. The following is the most important advice I can ever give you. Listen up. The most dangerous, fearsome tool the federal government, aka the district attorney who sentences you, will use against you and everybody arrested for a federal crime charge is called relevant conduct. Sentencing enhancements, aka ghost dope, ghost body, ghost guns, ghost money. This tool is used in all 11 federal circuits, meaning in every state in the United States. Crimes subject to relevant conduct include, but are not limited to selling drugs, committing murder, selling guns, any financial crime, etc. Whatever you get sentenced to federally, you will receive enhancements, relevant conduct, which can increase your sentence to the maximum penalty. Big facts. There is no such thing as the term ghost dope in any federal statute. That term is a smokescreen. Take the mask off, and ghost dope is relevant conduct. A major problem among criminals is that they wait until they're arrested to determine how much time they will be facing. If you choose to be in the streets, you should be trying to figure out what your sentencing exposure would be before you get caught doing whatever you're doing illegally. Why? Because anyone indicted is going to be forced into one of two decisions, to take a plea deal or go to trial. Either way, you will have to go through a sentencing phase. Additionally, lawbreakers need to make sure they know what their prior convictions are per federal definition. Typically, that's any conviction you had within the past 15 years, starting from the day you got off probation. So, for example, you did 10 years and got 3 years of probation. The clock on that 15 years starts when you get off probation, not when you got out of prison. Why is it so important for a criminal to know what's in their background? Because if caught and facing a federal prison sentence, their past criminal history and offense level will be part of the calculation used to determine how much relevant conduct will be added to their new case. Listen, the court can find that uncharged conduct, relevant conduct, bears some relation to your charged offense and be treated as a factor that will inflate your sentence. This simply means that what you are looking to be charged with will be mixed with what the government wants to add to your case, relevant conduct, and that in turn will increase your prison time anywhere from 5 years to life. Another thing that most criminals don't think about is the expense involved with being charged with a federal crime. Put some money up for a rainy day, $50K or better, as you will need that for an attorney, commissary, and to be able to take care of yourself as everything in prison costs. You may wonder why I am advising criminals to protect themselves. Many of them are only exposed to one side of the coin, how their activity benefits them. By the time they learn the full truth and have a change of heart, many will have been sentenced to the fullest extent of the law, losing their souls to the system. Family, friends, and God might be forgiving, but the federal government is not. These warnings might be their one saving grace. Simply put, if you're committing crime, stop. Go work a job, bust your butt, and get out of the game, as you are not ready for what the feds have in store for you. I have warned you, and I have tried to help, so I have done my job. Enjoy Welcome to Prison, as I hope that what you're about to read doesn't happen to you or anyone you know. Phase 1, schooling you. Picture this. You have just been pulled over in your vehicle. This traffic stop is the initiation of your voyage to hell. There are many reasons why you could have been stopped. It could be for a traffic violation, unpaid speeding tickets, or an expired license plate. Any of the listed could be categorized as a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is a crime less serious than a felony, such as driving with no license, without car insurance, or other less serious crimes. Or perhaps you have been pulled over for a felony-related violation. A felony is a serious crime with a guaranteed trip to jail and regarded by the law as grave and very serious. These crimes may include robbery, selling drugs, rape, theft, murder, and so forth. And finally, you are informed that there is a warrant in the system for your arrest. A warrant is an order by the courts that authorizes a search, seizure, or arrest. You were read your rights, handcuffed, placed into a police car, and taken straight to jail. Now, depending on your charge or charges, one of several events will take place. 1. State charges. If you are charged with a state-related crime, you will be led to a room where there will be a small TV monitor. On that monitor will be a judge or magistrate who will let you know what your charges are. Once you have been advised of them, one of three things can happen. The judge, magistrate will give you an OR, which will allow you to be released on your own recognizance. This means that it is being recorded by the courts that you are making a promise and that you agree to show up at a later date to see the judge, magistrate, and face the charges against you. If you are granted an OR, then chances are that you are facing small, petty charges that carry no jail time. These types of crimes usually require the accused to pay a fine. You will be granted a bond. A bond is an agreement or obligation for a certain amount of money you must pay to get out of jail immediately and return at a set court date to answer to the charges against you. If you are unable to pay the full bond amount that has been set, you may be advised to contact a bail bondsman. A bail bondsman is a liaison between you and the courts. The bail bondsman has the power to reduce a percentage of the set bond down to an amount that you can afford to pay. You will meet with the bondsman and agree to sign papers that state that you will not leave the county or country and will show up to court at a later or set date. You are given no bond or zero bond, which means that no bond or bail has been set for you. There can be various reasons for this. A judge may not yet have had a chance to set a bond, or a judge has determined that bond should not be set because the charges against you are serious. Either way, you will not be released and will be held in confinement at the jail and wait until the judge, magistrate, is ready to see you. 2. Federal charges. If your charge is related to a federal offense, then more than likely you won't be granted a bond or released from jail anytime soon until you see a federal judge. If, by chance, you're fortunate enough and given a bond, I highly recommend that you use your one free telephone call wisely. It is crucial that you contact someone who you know has your back and on whom you can depend 100%. If you have an attorney, you should call them. Phase 2, humiliation at its highest. Jails are short-term holding facilities for the newly arrested and for those waiting to be seen by a judge, awaiting sentencing, or going to trial. Once you arrive, you will be put in a holding cell to await processing. In the waiting process, you will sit in a crowded, foul-smelling, small room with other lawbreakers for what could be anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, if not longer. Eventually, you will be called by your first and last name and led to the processing area. The procedures that follow a criminal arrest, collectively known as booking, may vary from one jurisdiction to the next, but generally involve the following steps. You will be fingerprinted, have pictures taken, get a phone call, and receive the most notorious part of processing, the dreaded, degrading, and humiliating strip search. The strip search process looks something like this. You will be led to a small room and directed to take off all your clothing, shirt, pants, socks, underwear, everything. As you're taking off each article of clothing, you will hand each piece to the guard so that they can inspect it. They will then direct you to run your fingers through your hair, behind your ears, open your mouth, and move your tongue around. If you are a male inmate, you will be told to lift your testicles. Next, you will be asked to turn around, lift your right foot, and then your left foot. Lastly, the dreadful finale. You will be told to bend over, spread your buttocks, squat, and cough. This same routine applies for female inmates, except they will also get what's called a vaginal exam. Females are asked to stand with their legs spread on top of a floor mirror and then told to squat in order for the guard to see that they are not hiding anything inside their vaginal area. Your life has just been turned upside down. Daily contact with your family, friends, and children that you once took for granted has now come to an abrupt stop. Your workplace has been notified that you're in jail, and from this day forward, you will start to see people's true colors. I call this the moment of truth. At this point, your crimes, charges will determine how long you will stay in jail. This could be anywhere from 1 to 12 months or longer, as the courts don't rush anything. After the booking process, you will either go back into the small room, wait until they have a place for you to sleep, or you will be handed a blanket and escorted to a unit or a pod. A pod is usually a small area with 1 to 6 bunk beds. Presently, many jails are converting to larger areas or units where 25 to 100 inmates can be housed. With more and more people being arrested across the country, many county jails are currently converting or adding more space to the jails to house more inmates. County jail is one of the worst places a person can ever go. The pod you're assigned to is cold and foul. The showers get so hot that you can get third-degree burns, and the air conditioning stays on blast 24/7 throughout the winter and summer seasons. You will eat breakfast between 5 and 6 a.m. If you are asleep and miss breakfast or chow time, you simply won't eat. Most jails have a saying among the inmates: sleep late, lose weight. There is a lot of fighting and stealing in the county jails. The strong inmate groups pick on the weak groups and those accused of the wrong charges. When I say wrong charges, I'm talking about individuals with charges such as rape, child molestation, murder against women and children, and crimes against senior citizens. Individuals with these charges are often assaulted, have their food taken, raped, or worse, killed. Most times, these inmates have no choice but to go to the hole or the shoe. SHU stands for Special Housing Unit. The SHU, or isolation unit, is usually located in the basement of jails and prisons. There, inmates are isolated from other inmates in a single cell or room by themselves. The room is small, usually the size of a small closet, and contains a toilet, single bed, and tiny sink. The SHU is also for high-profile inmates like celebrities or individuals with high-level crimes, and for inmates who fight or commit other jail violations. The intent of these special housing units is to help ensure the safety, security, and orderly operation of correctional facilities, and to protect the public by providing alternative housing assignments for inmates removed from the general population. Phase 3. Fish out of water. You're about to be around the most vicious criminals your county and state have to offer. Your race will play a big part in how you're housed during your time in jail. Historically, most prisons house blacks with blacks, whites with whites, and Hispanics with Hispanics, etc. Over time, things have changed, where most jails are now housing inmates not only by race, but also by age, by types of charges, and by gang affiliation. As an inmate, regardless of race, watch the company you keep and who you hang with. More importantly, watch who you tell your business to. Everybody, and I mean everybody, wears a mask in jail. You don't want to come to jail broadcasting your personal business. Now, of course, you will meet and converse with people. Yet, I am warning you, watch what you say and don't be telling anybody your charges, what you had on the street or what you were doing in the streets. Don't ever talk about your family or where you lived. Jail inmates play mind games, backstab, and use manipulative methods and ways against other inmates 24/7. All day, every day, the county jail is very dangerous in many ways. Most inmates will do anything to get out of their jail and prison time. In county jail, there are inmates who have already been sentenced and are doing prison time. They could have returned to the county jail from prison to do more time, to tell on someone, or to be sent to a specific unit to try and get information from other inmates, even from you. The judicial system has no rules and will do anything to convict the person or people thereafter. There have been thousands of cases where jail inmates have worn a wire or some sort of recording device that captured incriminating conversations, which led to other inmates getting more time. In exchange, the inmate who wore the device either got released early or had his time reduced. An inmate who wears a recording device will get you to talk about yourself and then ask you about your crime, which will, in turn, lead you to give up details about your case or a case against you. The entire time they act like they're cool with you, when in reality, it's all game. What most victims don't know is once these inmates get you to confess and talk about what you did or what you were involved in, they will then take that recording and hand it over to the district attorney or DA. A case will then be built against you. Be very careful what you say on a jail phone. All jail phones record all conversations. Don't talk too loudly when on the phone, and make sure you face the phone when you speak. You don't know who is listening, and many inmates or criminals know how to read lips. I have seen it with my own eyes. An inmate is talking, and another is reading their lips and going back to the courts reporting on them. In extreme cases, you may be in jail for something as simple as too many unpaid parking tickets, and it can turn into a life sentence. I have seen that also. This is what television, movies, and music don't tell you. Finally, if you get any mail sent to you, do yourself a big favor and immediately tear off the sender's address, or it can lead to even more trouble. Jail inmates are always looking for ways to get money sent to them, to have someone write to them, or to use someone to get food or freedom. Here are 10 must-know rules that all jail and prison inmates need to know and apply. These rules will save your life. 1. Trust no one. Be extra careful of what you say to others and who you tell your business to. What you don't know is that the federal government has what is called a 5K1. A 5K1 is where someone, whether in jail or in the streets, finds out criminal information on you and goes to the police or the DA and tells on you. If the information they provide results in your arrest and conviction, the person telling on you can get a time reduction from their sentence. I have seen men who have been in prison 10 and 20 years and others with life sentences tell on someone else, and as a result, have their sentences reduced to time served and be immediately released. The feds also have what's called a Rule 35. A Rule 35 is similar to a 5K1, but with a twist. Someone can contact the feds and work with them to get someone charged for a past or current crime. Once their target gets arrested and it's established that they committed the crime, then that person who told can have the feds give a time reduction to anybody already in prison or someone facing prison time. The following is an example. A man on the street has a brother in a federal prison with a 20-year prison sentence. The street brother just told on someone for selling drugs and a murder. The brother who just told can have the feds give his brother in prison the reduced time instead of using it for himself. This is the latest trend going on in the federal prison system. Jail and federal inmates are getting their girlfriends, relatives, or friends to tell on people for serious crimes, and in turn have the feds give their incarcerated loved ones the reduced time or the immediate release from jail or federal prison. It's a dirty game, so watch what the hell you say in jail and in prison. 2. Treat your family, friends, and anyone there for you well. Don't ever push away people who help you while you're in jail or in prison. If they decide to leave, let them leave on their own. 3. Get and stay healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. Your overall health is of the utmost importance. 4. Don't accept any favors from anyone. If you don't have the money to buy it, then you don't need it. Don't mess with drugs, drink alcohol, gamble, borrow anything, or engage in criminal activity. I seriously stress this, as you don't ever want to owe anything to anyone in jail or prison. Also, don't smoke K2. K2 is a mix of unknown chemicals that is sprayed on paper and smoked. It gives you a feeling of being high and is in high demand due to the fact that most jails and prisons don't test for it. Recently, in jails and prisons across America, K2 has been laced with fentanyl and is seriously hurting inmates and even killing them. 5. Hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. In other words, mind your business. It can and will save your life. 6. The past is the past. Build a bridge and get over it. 7. Refuse to engage in self-pity. It will get you nowhere. 8. Get and remain focused on your case. If the jail or prison allows you to go to the law library or use the computer to access the state and federal court systems, use them. Your focus should be to beat your charges or case, or at least make sure your case is judged fairly. 9. HIV, AIDS, hepatitis, and other diseases absolutely exist in jails and prisons. Condoms are not sold in jail or prison. Therefore, do not engage in any sexual activities, whether with women or men. 10. Constantly work to improve and expand your mind with knowledge and positive things. If classes or programs are offered, take them. Again, like rule number 8, focus on and research your case always and often. Phase 4, awaiting your destiny. You did the crime, and now you will do the time. Once a person finds themselves in jail and has started the initiation process, they will definitely wish they would have read this educational guide. The shock of jail can pass in a matter of days, weeks, or become the start of many months of isolation and heartache. You thought you experienced stress before coming to jail. Well, nothing compares to waiting weeks and months or even years to hear what the district attorney wants to charge you with, not to mention the long prison sentence that the prosecution wants to give you. I have seen people die in jail from the stress of not knowing what was going to happen to them. Your mind will play tricks on you with constant racing thoughts of, will my woman or man stand by me if I go to prison? How will my children cope? How will my bills, rent, or mortgage get paid? Those are just some of the thoughts. If you're facing state charges, more than likely you will fare better than if you're facing federal charges. The state is more lenient than the feds. A good paid attorney can get state charges and prison time reduced dramatically, or even get the charges dropped down to as low as probation. If the same charges go federal, you're looking at an almost guaranteed prison sentence due to the feds' conviction rate of 98%. Many jail inmates are forced to get a public defender. A public defender is a court-appointed attorney. Most jail inmates will have a public defender appointed to them by the courts. That's due to the fact that people in general usually don't have $5,000 to $10,000 saved up for an attorney, and a public defender is free. What's crazy is that most criminals, especially drug dealers, don't think to put up that type of money in case they get arrested and need to hire an attorney. Most of their money is invested in material possessions like shoes, cars, jewelry, and clothing. The problem with getting a public defender is that most of them are way too busy representing hundreds of other lawbreakers and don't have the time to handle additional workload. In general, that means that most public defenders are so overloaded that they can't and won't do a good job on 90% of their cases. As a result, they will encourage all inmates assigned to them to either take a plea deal, stay in jail, pay a big fine, or worse, agree to the charges or tell on someone. A plea is when a defendant agrees to the charges or indictment against them. An indictment is when someone is charged with a crime by the finding of a grand jury. A grand jury is a body of people sworn to inquire into a matter submitted to them by the courts and render a verdict on whether or not to charge a defendant. Your public defender will, in most cases, want you to cooperate with the government in getting others into trouble so that you can get out of jail or out of doing any prison time. It's accepted and encouraged by all courts in America. The problem with telling or snitching on someone or on something, however, is that it will get you labeled as a rat, a person who has worked with the courts. Even worse, it can get you and your family killed. After someone provides information to the courts about a crime or crimes committed by someone or a group of people, the person telling will get a reduction of a sentence and a 5K1 designation added to their paperwork. This label will appear on a person's documents that show what they are locked up for and charged with. When you come to prison, other inmates will want to see your paperwork. If your papers have a 5K1 on there, trust me, it will not be good for you. Inmates will want to fight you, stab you, or worse, take your life. This is just the way prison life operates. Furthermore, if you tell and don't go to prison, it will still be on your record and on public records that you cooperated with the courts. The person or people you told on can still find out and hurt you. There are many levels to jail and especially federal prison. I will talk more in depth about them later. The district attorney will want you to tell on murders, robberies, gang activity, shootings, drug dealers, rapes, or anything dealing with a serious crime. The better the information, i.e., information that can lead to an arrest, the better time reduction you will get. There have been thousands of cases where criminals were in jail or prison serving 10 plus years, a life sentence, or had even been given the death penalty. At some point while serving their time, they provided some good information that solved a cold case, an old crime that was never solved, and that inmate got out of prison completely. Again, I have also seen this many times. In summary, the bottom line preached from the mouths of the inmates who don't tell is do the crime, do the time, don't tell, and don't get others in trouble. Phase 5, accepting the darkness, is all that you can say. You have sat in the county jail now for 8 months. 8 months is the average time for someone to sit in county jail before being charged and found guilty of a crime or crimes. The criminal justice system has just found you guilty of a federal offense. The charge, applying for and obtaining a Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, loan from the Small Business Administration and the Department of Treasury in the amount of $300,000. These loans were offered during the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020 to help small businesses pay their expenses, employee payroll primarily, and overhead. In your situation, you applied using a counterfeit business and acted as the owner. Over time, as the pandemic died out, you and your business were investigated, and ultimately it was revealed that you committed PPP fraud for providing false information. The truth was that you never used any of the funds received on a business. You actually used the funds for personal gain. As a result, you are now looking at the possibility of spending the next 36 to 60 months or 3 to 5 years of your life behind bars in the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, also known as the BOP. The BOP sentencing system goes by months, not years. Your whole world, as you've known it, is about to be flipped upside down. From this point on, your freedom has been stripped, and you will now need permission to do any and everything. This any and everything includes what you can wear and how to wear it, to what you can and can't eat. It includes how you make your bed, walk, talk, and even how and when you can use the bathroom. The freedoms that you once took for granted, you will now long for. 1 minute your life was so good and you had it made. You are now about to be in a nightmare. From this point on, you are no longer known by your first name, but will instead be called inmate and known by an 8-digit number they will assign to you. You're now the property of the beast called the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Everything you once had in society is now gone and means absolutely nothing. Your money, status, lifestyle, material possessions, and maybe your significant other are all gone or on their way there. Because you committed a federal crime involving the theft of money, the government has taken everything you have or own worth any value. The feds do this to most criminals with money crimes. They confiscate enough of your material possessions to total the amount you stole. They then sell your belongings in federal auctions in order to repay the stolen money. Federal auctions are held all over the country. There, the public can buy jewelry, cars, TVs, clothing, and houses that criminals once owned for as low as 30 to 50% of the retail price. You are about to live under a new set of rules and values. You just got back from court and you kept quiet on who helped you obtain the PPP loan. You took responsibility and were mature with the fact that you messed up and took a plea deal for 60 months. As you're sitting in the holding cell, waiting to be taken back to the county jail, your emotions are all over the place. Your anxiety is at an all-time high. You're thinking about your family and hoping that they can cope with your sentence. You also keep thinking about how dumb you were for doing what you did. 2 very important things you need to know. 1, if you are innocent, never, ever plead guilty. If you act impulsively and quickly plead guilty before the state and/or feds even investigate your case, you are making a big mistake. When you plead guilty, you will lose your right to appeal. An appeal is when you apply to a higher court for reversal of a decision made by a lower court. The goal of an appeal is asking the courts to re-examine the facts in your case or conviction and request a new hearing. I will repeat, if you are truly innocent of what you're being accused of, by no means allow your attorney or public defender to talk you into taking a plea or pleading guilty to a lesser charge. So many people have made that dreadful mistake as a result of not wanting to sit in county jail or letting other inmates get into their heads and scare them. Fight your case. The district attorney, or DA, will do their best to make sure you take a plea deal rather than have you fight your case and go to trial. Think about it. Why would you plead guilty if you're innocent and go to prison not being able to appeal your wrongful conviction instead of going to trial, losing, but still retaining all of your appeal rights? 2, mandatory sentences. Please be aware that certain crimes carry mandatory sentences, and there is nothing you can do about that. These crimes include, but are not limited to, being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm, felony sexual assault of a minor, drug trafficking, and a long list of other crimes that all carry a mandatory minimum of 5 years to the maximum, a life sentence. You've now made it back to the county jail following your sentencing, and just wait there for 2 more months. Finally, the day has come for you to be transferred to a federal holdover where you will sit for a week or up to a few months until the prison you're assigned to is ready to accept you. A federal holdover is nothing more than a county jail building that has an agreement OSS contract with the federal government to house federal indicted inmates in a designated area until they are ready to be sent to a federal reception center. A federal reception center is a large building that has an agreement contract with the federal government to house federal male, female inmates who are waiting to be assigned to a federal prison facility. The federal prison system has a processing system and different factors it uses to determine which prisons federal inmates go to serve their time. Some factors are your age, prior record, your sentence length, and the type of crime or crimes you committed. The feds also have 6 regions they consider when selecting the prison an inmate is sent to. Each of the 6 regions consists of a cluster of states. The state in which you were sentenced will most likely determine in which of the 6 regions you will be doing your federal time. The following are the 6 regions and states that make up each region: Mid-Atlantic region, Delaware, District of Columbia, Kentucky, Maryland, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, North Central region, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, and Wisconsin, Northeast region, Connecticut, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Maine, Massachusetts, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Vermont. South Central region, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. Southeast region, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Puerto Rico, Mississippi, and South Carolina. Western region, Alaska, Arizona, California, Idaho, Hawaii, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Wyoming, and Washington. The feds also go by a point system when selecting the prisons where federal inmates will be serving their sentences. 0 to 11 points has a federal camp. 12 to 15 points has a low prison. 16 to 23 points has a medium prison. 24 to 35 points has a United States Penitentiary or USP. 36 and higher has Supermax or ADX. These systems will be explained further in our next phase. There is no going back now. Phase 6, caging you. As I stated in phase number 5, the feds have many different factors they use to determine what federal prisons they will send inmates to and what region they will be classified in. In the final section of phase number 5, I discussed the point system that is used. See, each federal inmate is classified by a set of points. So if you're a new inmate and have never been in trouble with the law and are convicted of a nonviolent crime, then you will more than likely be scored low and housed at a federal camp for your sentence. If you are convicted of a violent crime and there are victims in your case, you will more than likely receive a medium or high level of points. A huge factor in the region you will be assigned to will depend upon which state you caught your case in and where your physical home address is. As of 2018, the federal BOP has been placing inmates in prisons within 500 miles of their listed home addresses and the states in which they caught their cases. The feds go by air miles and not driving miles. So, for example, if your crime and case took place in Ohio and your point scores are low or medium, then you will be placed in a federal prison in Ohio. There is only one federal prison in the state of Ohio. Therefore, if you were sentenced in Ohio, then you would be put into that federal prison if there was room, or if not, into one of the other prisons in the Northeast region. The following is a list of the prison security levels the federal BOP places inmates in, starting from the highest to the lowest. ADX or Supermax security prison. There is only one super maximum or controlled unit prison operated by the federal BOP. It houses the worst of federal inmates. It's called the ADX Florence, or the Administrative Maximum Facility. The prison is located near Florence, Colorado, and is in the mountains underground. You usually have to be assigned more than 35 points or have committed crimes like terrorism, mass killings, or escaping from a federal prison. Gang leaders who have ordered harm, done to others, and inmates who are violent and out of control have also found themselves housed in the ADX. Inmates there are locked down 23 hours a day in individual cement rooms and get 30 minutes to 1 hour of recreation. Recreation consists of being permitted in a large, caged area where the most you can do is walk around in a circle. Inmates read their mail on television monitors, and for the most dangerous of criminals, a sliding shower is brought to their cells. Despite the fact that these inmates are locked down 23 hours per day, the ADX is still one of the most dangerous prisons in America. Special management units. These units are better known to inmates as smooth prisons. These prisons are locked down 23 hours a day. Inmates who reside there are double bunked in a bunk bed or two-man cell. They get recreation in a steel container that looks like a giant dog cage. These prisons typically house a lot of gang members and violent inmates. Other inmates in this type of prison could have been caught with cell phones or knives. They may have been caught engaging in sexual acts with federal workers, or may have committed other serious prison violations. ADX and smooth step-down prisons. These prisons are designed to rehabilitate federal inmates who come from either ADX or smooth prisons and are working on lowering their security status. Inmates housed at these prisons are locked down 12 hours or more per day. Although these inmates have a little more freedom, they are still considered very dangerous. USP or United States Penitentiary prisons. These prisons house many of the inmates who have sentences ranging from 10 years to a life sentence or more. They also house inmates with high points who have bad prison records or who have violated prison rules and stay in trouble. These prisons each contain a gun tower where the federal workers are trained to sit and be ready if a big fight or some sort of violence is committed in the prison. The staff in the gun towers have permission to shoot a warning shot and then to shoot you in the center of your chest. These prisons tend to be violent. Stabbings are the norm, as men don't use their fists at USP prisons. Most USP prisons have a 30-foot or higher brick wall surrounding the entire prison, so inmates cannot see into the outside world. USP. Prisons have more freedom than the first three types of prisons listed, but at any time, the environment can go from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. It is very crucial for inmates to be very careful and follow the rules that were outlined in phase number 3 of this manual. Medium security prisons, or FCI prisons. Federal correctional institutions are more laid back than the prisons previously discussed. However, there is still some fighting, stabbing, and violence that take place at this level as well. Medium secured prisons usually house young inmates and offer some programming and classes for inmates to learn skills. There are no brick walls surrounding these prisons, so the inmates can see beyond the gates. However, there is barbed wire fencing around the entire prison. Low security prisons. These prisons are even more laid back than the types previously mentioned. There is barbed wire fencing around the entire prison. These prisons usually become home to first-time federal inmates with non-violent crimes and inmates with sex crimes, such as receiving and transmission of images of teens and children. Inmates charged with sex crimes are looked down upon throughout the entire federal prison system. Sex offender inmates can't go to USPs or medium prisons as they will get beaten up, raped, and even killed. They can't go to camp prisons due to two primary security level concerns. First, the fact that most inmates at camps have what's called an out-custody gate pass that allows them to leave the prison and go work in the community. Second, sex offenders must always be at least 500 yards away from any schools or places where children are located. Camp prisons. Of all the federal prisons that exist, camp prisons are the most laid back and easiest prisons to serve time at. These camps have no fencing surrounding their perimeters, and inmates at these prisons can work regular jobs off prison property. Inmates in camp prisons must have camp points, which are 11 or less, and have less than 10 years remaining on their sentences. Most politicians, famous, rich, or celebrity inmates are housed in federal camp prisons. Television icon Martha Stewart and musician Lauryn Hill were both inmates at a federal camp prison. These camps also carry plenty of contraband, such as drugs, cell phones, and food that inmates bring back while off prison property. Phase 7. Long road to go. Due to the nature of your crime, your 60-month sentence, and the fact that this is your first offense, you were lucky. The feds assigned you to a camp prison. Unfortunately, there was a mix-up with your paperwork. You and another federal inmate have the same name and a similar 8-digit number. The last 3 digits of each federal inmate's number represent the state and the district they were sentenced in. Your last 3 digits are 061, meaning that you caught your case in Ohio. As a result of the mix-up, you are now assigned to a medium-high security prison in the Northeast region until the mix-up is fixed. Believe it or not, this happens often, but always gets fixed eventually. It's now time for you to leave the county jail. You will be placed in a room with other federal inmates and told to strip naked to be searched. There will always be a male guard for men and a female guard for women inmates. The jail guard will ask you to hand over your jail-issued clothing so they can inspect it. They will shake the clothing and look through it to make sure you're not smuggling any forms of contraband. Many jail inmates attempt to hide items they shouldn't have when they transfer. Drugs to sell once they get to prison, a knife for protection, a pair of dice to start up a dice game, and make money once they get to their assigned prison, or even a cell phone. I have seen it all. Guess where the inmates are hiding the contraband? You guessed it, up their butts. For female inmates, they hide contraband in their butts as well as in their vaginas. Once the guard completes the clothing inspection, they will perform the same strip search procedure as when you first arrived at county jail. Upon conclusion of the humiliating strip search, inmates are placed in the same clothing and shoes they were in. You will be handcuffed and shackled at the feet and placed in a federal transport van with anywhere from 4 to 10 other federal inmates and driven to a federal holdover. State sentenced inmates who are in the county jail will go through the same process, but will board a state transport van and be taken to a correctional reception center, or CRC. If you would like to know more about what happens to jail inmates who go to state prison, especially Ohio state prisons, then I highly suggest that you support and buy the book Felon, the New Slur Word by Justin Guyton. You are taken to a federal holdover in Kentucky and remain there until it's time for you to go to one of the 5 federal reception centers. 3 weeks. Most inmates who enter the federal prison system come through the facility and remain there until the prisons they are assigned to are ready for them. There are federal reception centers located throughout the United States in Atlanta, Georgia, Brooklyn, New York, Leavenworth, Kansas, Tallahassee, Florida, and Lexington, Oklahoma. The Oklahoma location is one of the most used centers in the transfer process. The transfer process. 3 weeks have passed and you're abruptly awakened at 5 a.m. and told to be ready in 1 hour. You are then placed in a van or bus and driven to a designated airport where hundreds of other federal inmates are waiting to board just like you and are taken to one of the federal reception centers. Once your van or bus arrives, you will remain seated for anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, handcuffed and shackled at the feet until the airplane lands. While staring out of your window, you will look around and see many other vans, buses, police cars, and transport vehicles all holding federal inmates. Next, you will be ordered to get out of the vehicle. Each inmate, once they get up and exit the vehicle, will be asked their full name and federal 8-digit number. For whatever reason, if you don't know your federal inmate number, it is okay. Once you depart from the vehicle, you will be called over by an air marshal, also known as the air police. They are calling to inspect you prior to boarding the airplane. Once you reach a male or female air marshal, they will again ask you for your full name and federal number. Then the search begins all over again. While wearing gloves, the air marshals will ask you to open your mouth. They will feel behind your ears and ask you to turn around. They will bend down and take off each of your shoes and make sure you're not hiding anything. They will slip your shoes back on, pat you down, and tell you to go stand in line next to the airplane. While you wait, you will have to stand still and look straight ahead as you watch the many other federal male and female inmates going through the same process you just went through. If you're a female, you will be asked to board the plane immediately and sit in the first row of seats. If a male inmate, you will be told to sit all the way in the back when you board the plane. Once all passengers are checked and double-checked, it's finally time for the plane to lift off. Phase 8, take off. Upon traveling to any of the assigned reception centers, the air marshals will usually tell you which federal reception center you're being flown to. Let's just say for this instance, you're told that you're going to Oklahoma. While on the plane, you will be told to buckle your seatbelt. You will also be fed lunch. Lunch is brown bagged and usually consists of a bottle of water, a mystery meat sandwich, and a bag of pretzels. During the flight, it is strongly advised that the men keep from catcalling or trying to talk to the female inmate passengers who will be sitting in the front rows of the plane. The air marshals will do a restroom call, and if any of the female passengers have to use the restroom, they will have to go to the back of the plane and walk past all of the male inmates. The advice from the federal staff obviously isn't followed well, as you will hear all types of lines or words from the men trying their best to get the females' attention as they walk by. It is very important to keep quiet throughout the flight because if not, when you finally do arrive at the reception center, you could be taken right to the hole or shoe for not following a direct order. Upon landing, the plane will pull up to the side of the Lexington Assessment and Reception Center. This is the official name of the Oklahoma Center. One by one, all the federal inmates on the plane will be asked to get off and walk down a long, wide hallway. The females will walk on the left side and the males will walk on the right. One by one, every federal inmate who is on that plane will have to walk onto a large platform or podium. Once it's your turn to step onto the podium, you will be unshackled at the feet and your belly restraint chain and handcuffs will be taken off. If you're a female inmate, you will be asked to walk off of the podium, walk straight, then turn to your left and wait in a room. If you are a male inmate, you will be asked to walk straight and then make a right turn where you will see 3 to 5 large rooms that you are directed to walk into and wait in. You will be given a packet of papers with a small pencil and asked to fill out the paperwork. The paperwork consists of your usual intake type of paperwork, which includes collecting your emergency contact information. There is a questionnaire that collects information about your medical history. The packet also contains a release form that asks if you want to throw away the street clothing you're wearing or if you want to donate the items to the holdover. The remainder of the paperwork will tell you the rules of the Federal Reception Center and what you can expect, as well as permitted and restricted items. You will be in the large room along with all the other men who boarded the plane with you for anywhere up to 3 hours, or whenever the guards are ready to process you. You may also be in that room with inmates who are already in prison and being transferred to another prison, or with first-time inmates who show up to turn themselves in at the Federal Reception Center. These inmates will wait at the center until the police come to pick them up and take them to jail. Once the guards are ready to start processing all the inmates, they usually start with the female inmates first, as they are a much smaller group. Once the female inmate processing is complete, the staff will open the door and start calling the male inmates for processing in groups of 10. Once you're called, you will be told to make a left and follow the white lines on the floor. Those white lines will lead to one of the 4 processing areas. or stations. The first station you will visit will be the strip search area. It's the same strip search routine that you have endured 4 times already. There, you will go stand in one of 10 stalls where you will be asked to strip naked. You will throw your undergarments, socks, pants, and shirt in a large barrel. If a male inmate, you will be asked to lift your testicles, open your mouth, show the back of each foot, bend over, squat, and cough. After squatting, you will then be asked to turn back around and provide your sizes for shirt, pants, and shoes. Right in front of you is a bunch of large bins that have all sizes of clothing and shoes. You will stand there naked until they find all your correct sizes. You will then have 1 minute to get dressed. Once dressed, you will be told to leave that station through a metal detector and then wait in a small room until a guard tells you to go to the next station. One by one, each inmate is called to the second station. This is the ID station where you will be asked your name, social security number, and prison ID number. They will check and double check to make sure you are who you say you are. You will then be directed to the third station. This is the medical station. There, you will be asked questions regarding your medical background and about any prescribed medications you may be taking. If you are prescribed medication, then it will be given to you while at the medical station. For instance, if you're a diabetic, then you will get your insulin shot. Or if you take a certain type of pill, then they will more than likely have it available for you. The fourth and final station follows. This station is the assessment station. There, you will be asked your full name, federal 8-digit ID number, and asked if you are concerned with joining the general population due to you having told or snitched on someone involved with your case. You will be asked if you are gang affiliated, and if so, which gang you run with. The reception center has certain areas for certain gangs, and you will be placed in the area with your fellow gang members or who your particular gang is affiliated with. At station number 4, if you ask, you will be informed of the federal prison you are being sent to. You are left in shock as you are told that they have not fixed the mix-up with your and the other inmates' paperwork. The unfortunate result is that you will still be assigned to a medium secure prison until the mishap is fixed. Following the final station, you're told to go to a large room and wait there until your name is called. This large room is packed with other inmates with little to nowhere to sit or even stand. As you look at your surroundings, you see inmates of various nationalities. You also observe inmates whose appearances range from scared and nervous to unhappy, tired, and depressed. Approximately 30 minutes to an hour later, a guard comes to the door and starts calling inmates by their last name. He is calling inmates in groups of 5 to 10 at a time. Once your name is called, you will be handed a brown paper bag. This bag contains your dinner. Inside that bag again will be that infamous prison mystery meat, bread, and an apple. That's it. Next, you will be handed a bedroll. A bedroll is a blanket rolled up with a cup, towel, wash rag, toothpaste, pillowcase, spoon, and a bar of soap inside. You, along with the other men in the group that you were called with, will then be escorted to an elevator and finally taken to a pod or unit. Once you arrive, you will be directed to go into a small room and wait there until the officer working the unit assigns you to your cell. Welcome to your temporary home. More than likely, you will be assigned to a cell that already houses an inmate who has been waiting weeks or even months to be sent to their assigned prison. All the cell rooms hold 2 inmates and therefore contain a bunk bed with a toilet and a sink. Once you're assigned to your room, your cellmate or bunkie welcomes you. Every inmate who must go to prison or through transit before reaching their destined prison home hopes that their cellmate isn't dangerous or crazy or doesn't have any extreme mental diagnoses. What's crazy is that at the Oklahoma Reception Center, male and female inmates can communicate and talk to each other and fish through the toilet system. Fish is the term used because you make a string and put something on the end of the string so you can throw it under your door or flush it down the toilet. Another inmate can catch it with their fishing line. Using this method, inmates can pass notes, drugs, and contraband. I have seen someone fish a cell phone through the toilet. Male inmates are housed under the females. Inmates will clean their toilets out by soaking up all of the water and then stick their faces in the toilet and yell or call out your room number, and the females do the same. It's been that way for many years. Male and female inmates communicating through the toilet system. Most federal reception centers contain 4 rooms consisting of televisions that are assigned to inmates according to their race, Black, white, or Latino. In addition, there is a sports TV room. The unit consists of anywhere between 50 to 70 cells or rooms that the inmates sleep in behind a locked door. The units have a top and bottom tier with cells of inmates. The unit can also include 3 to 6 computers where inmates have the ability to email loved ones, attorneys, etc. There is also a phone area with 2 to 4 phones. Inmates can stay at their reception centers for anywhere between 1 night or up to 6 months before their assigned prison is ready to accept them. In this case, you have waited 3 weeks. It's finally time for you to be sent to your assigned prison to serve your sentence. So picture this: the on-duty officer abruptly and surprisingly wakes you up at 2:30 a.m. For your benefit, I strongly advise that you use the restroom before leaving. I'm talking taking a number 2. I stress the importance of this because you will be returning to the same large room that held you when you first arrived at the Oklahoma Reception Center. There is just one nasty toilet and you have absolutely no privacy. The second reason I recommend taking a number 2 is because whether you are flying or riding a bus to your assigned prison, you will once again be shackled at the feet with a belly chain connected to a pair of handcuffs. This makes it impossible to wipe yourself. Now, once you are back down in that same large room, you will sit, lie on the floor, or stand and wait there until 7 a.m. You will be given a brown bag breakfast consisting of milk, some stale cereal, and if you're lucky, a muffin. Again, I recommend that you do not drink the milk in order to prevent any stomach issues that will result in you having to do a number 2. You are in luck as you have been given the opportunity to fly to your assigned prison. The same rules will apply, so board the plane, sit back, take a nap, and get ready. The time has finally arrived for you to start this 60-month sentence and begin to slowly count down the days. Phase 9. Inmates remain seated. Your plane has landed and you're escorted off. The air marshals repeat the same routine that they did prior to you boarding the plane. Once you put your slippers back on your feet, you follow the directives and go stand in a line. In that line, you see hundreds of other inmates about to complete the same process that you just finished, board that same plane, and head to any of the previously mentioned federal reception centers. Again, these inmates could be transferring from other prisons or have come off the street, still in their regular clothing, having turned themselves in, headed to a county jail, and or be an inmate in transit to court. You hear your full name and federal 8-digit ID number being called out by one of the air marshals. You comply and are directed to board a large bus. Once on the bus, you see other inmates who have already boarded and will have to find a seat. Federal transport buses usually take inmates to federal holdovers, federal reception centers, and assigned prisons. The buses hold up to 40 inmates with a guard in the back of the bus who holds a shotgun and sits in a seat surrounded by a cage. Inside all federal transport buses is a metal fence that closes and locks. The purpose of this fence is to protect the driver and the guard with a shotgun who sits up front. You're shackled at the feet and have a chain restraint around your waist, connected to your handcuffs. These chains and restraints obviously make it very uncomfortable to fly or to ride a bus for 1 to 10 hours, depending on your destination. But the days of living comfortably are over for now. I have mentioned doing a number 2 prior to boarding several times. I mention this again because if you do so while in transit, you're in trouble. There have been many instances where grown men have literally done a number 2 on themselves. Meanwhile, the rest of the inmates are left with the task of enduring the stench until the bus finally reaches its destination. Once all inmates are counted, the bus is ready to depart. As a passenger, you can't help but to be a little scared, as you have no idea as to what the hell you're about to be faced with. You have thoughts about your life, what you lost, and hope that you will make it out of prison alive. Finally, after 8 long, dreadful hours, you have arrived at your assigned prison destination. What you see in front of you looks like something out of a horror movie. Most federal prisons are located in remote parts of the state, so you only see a large structure surrounded by woods. One by one, each inmate is asked to stand and walk towards the front of the bus. By this time, the guard sitting up front has opened the steel metal gate. As each inmate steps off the bus, you're again asked to provide your full name and 8-digit federal prison ID number. Eventually, this ID number will become your identity and will be needed to use the telephone, emails, to visit the commissary store, or to make commissary purchases. So I highly suggest that you memorize it sooner rather than later. Once off the bus, you will see 2 to 4 guards that work at your assigned prison. You will be directed to follow them. You go into the entrance of the prison, and once everyone is all together, the group usually contains 25 to 40 other inmates. You will step forward individually to the front of a desk or to a counter with a small window. Sitting behind the desk or window is a guard holding paperwork containing the bus passengers' names and 8-digit federal ID numbers. With your paperwork mix-up, you are pulled to the side and told to give the prison a few weeks to fix the mistake. Then you will be transferred to the camp prison that you were sentenced to. You're told to rejoin the group and then directed to follow another officer. As a heads up, it's extremely hard to walk when you are shackled at the ankles, so prepare yourself for some pain. It's best to just suck it up and keep it moving, because if you can't keep up or walk, you're going to be dragged along. Once all the new inmates get to another area of the prison, you will see a sign above a door that says intake. There will be between 4 and 8 other guards there. They will call for the new inmates in groups of up to 8 at a time and will take off each inmate's leg chains and shackles. They will direct you to turn around and then will remove your handcuffs. Once all the new inmates have gotten all shackles, chains, and cuffs removed, you will be directed to go and sit in one of the 3 small rooms and wait for the officers to call your name. One by one, each inmate is called to be screened or questioned by prison guards and other staff members. Upon your name being called, you go into a small room and the doors close behind you. Once inside, the interviewer will again ask you for your full name and 8-digit federal ID number. If by now you still don't know your ID number, it will be provided to you. After checking your name off the list, you will be told the rules and how the prison operates. You will be given a briefing on what gangs or organizations run the yard, or of the individuals who have an unfavorable or notorious reputation in that prison. Again, you will be asked if you're affiliated or in a gang. Next, you will be asked if you fear for your life or if you have worked with the government and told on someone. If so, they will ask you who. You'll once again be asked if you feel safe enough to be in general population or to be around the other inmates at the prison. Once you answer all the questions, you'll then be directed to another room where they will ask you to strip naked and will take pics of you from head to toe, from the back and side. They are looking for any tattoos or any marks on you to see if you're in a gang and to know what you look like in case you escape. They will also use one of the pictures for your new prison ID card. Following that process, you're then told to go into yet another small room where there will be an officer waiting to talk to you. They will be what's called a Special Investigator Service or SIS officer. Each federal prison has them, and their job is to investigate any and all crimes and wrongdoings by inmates and prison staff. The SIS officers have bosses. They are called Security Industry Association, SIA officers. These officials have more power than even the wardens of the prisons and have direct contact to the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, the SIS officer knows everything about you and your case. They have read over everything about each new inmate prior to their arrival. Therefore, they already know if you're a snitch or a rat for telling on someone, so you can't lie to them. After you answer all their questions and all of the other inmates have completed their interviews, it's time to be assigned to the pod or unit you will be housed in. These housing assignments can take up to 2 hours unless the prison has previously assigned you to a certain unit. You're also handed a piece of paper. This paper contains your personal information, including your full name, 8-digit federal ID number, and a 4-digit number. This 4-digit number is a code that you will need to access your email or your Core Links account. You will need to have both your 8-digit and 4-digit numbers memorized. Now that all of that is complete, it's time to be walked out by a guard onto the prison compound. You glance around and notice the visible fear and depression written on the faces of the inmates. You suck it up, take a deep breath, and walk out of the intake area door and into your new home. Phase 10, hard work pays off, or does it? Congratulations. All those years of committing crimes have finally paid off, and you have earned the well-deserved title of an official federal inmate. Each prison has various times when new inmates arrive and cross the prison yard to reach their assigned units. These times can be in the morning, afternoon, or even in the evening after 6 p.m. No matter the time, the most common way a new inmate arrives is by a prison guard who leads the group of inmates and directs each one to their new home. Your introduction to your prison, however, is different than usual. As soon as you and the other new inmates walk out from the intake area, your group is met by hundreds of inmates who are waiting. They're all looking at you, dissecting your appearance, and asking where you're from, who you're affiliated with, and how much time you have. This is common in medium secured prisons and USP prisons. At one point, you hear, "Yo, Ohio, what's up?" This catches your attention and causes you to look around and make eye contact with the few inmates you see standing there. You see, most prisons have what's called a shot caller, or a person in charge of a certain group of inmates, gang, or car, a prison clique marked by extreme and blind loyalty, organized by state. These shot callers have access to information on all new inmates and check to see if their paperwork is good or bad. Shot callers also have access to a copy of your picture. This is the reason I previously stressed why it is not a good idea to tell on someone, because inmates have a way of finding out. Your eye contact results in this group walking up to you, shaking your hand, and welcoming you to prison. They let you know that they have already done their homework on you, investigated your charges, and discovered you're a solid individual, or that you didn't tell on anyone. See, the shot caller or the head of the gang or organization you're affiliated with has access to a list of all the inmates arriving in 1 to 3 weeks. They can see where each new inmate is from, his, her charges, and if you work with the government. As a reward for being solid, you are offered a care package, a bag containing some commissary items, including a pair of shower shoes and soap. With 061 at the end of your 8-digit federal ID number, You are informed that you are a part of the Midwest car. A few other inmates are walking towards you, staring at you, and trying to see if they know you, while many others just nod their heads and keep moving around. The guard that accompanied you out the door yells for all the new inmates to get back into the group. Don't worry, you will have more than enough time to get with your homeboys or the other men who are in your car. As you walk around the prison, you and 3 other men are told to walk to the right. That's your unit. As you walk towards the door, which has a small window, you can see a group of inmates inside who are staring at you and the 2 other men walking with you. Before the door is pulled open, you take a deep breath, say a prayer, and get ready. Finally, the door is open. Welcome to prison. Acknowledgements. I would first like to thank my mother, who passed away this year. She pushed me to always be my best, to be a man, and to help save the youth from making the same mistakes that I did when I was younger. I will forever miss you, Mom. I would like to thank all the members of Team Love. This is the group of people who support all of my projects and push me to keep creating and reaching my goals and dreams. To my best friend, editor, and business partner, Mary, if not for you, none of the positive things I've created would be ready for the world to see. To Tiffany, for being there in the early days and pushing me to get this book published. To Letitia, for being the first one to buy the book and thanking me for telling society the truth about going to jail and federal prison. I would like to thank Matthew Pate for being the best prison roommate and for your feedback on this book. I would like to give a shout out to Strong Bear for educating me on relevant conduct and for wanting to help prevent the youth from making the same mistakes that landed us both in federal prison. I also want to give a special acknowledgement and thank you to Portia Moore of Transitional Reentry Adult Program, TRAP, in Memphis, Tennessee. I was connected with Portia and TRAP in the last 6 months of my incarceration. During this period, I came face to face with the reality that had been shared with me by former inmates, that there is very little help out there when it comes to reentry, especially through those critical first 6 months. After 22 years, I was dealing with the possibility of having to figure it out on my own. Over the weeks that followed, Portia answered my questions and calmed many of my fears. Her heart for combating recidivism stemmed from having experienced the intense personal challenges of transition from incarceration to reentry herself. Many years into her new life, dissatisfied with the lack of fulfillment provided by her well-paying corporate job, Portia took a huge leap of faith towards living out her mission. She founded TRAP to help turn the justice involved who have been released into productive, law-abiding citizens by equipping program participants with the skills, support, supervision, and opportunities they need in order to succeed in their societal reentry. Portia personally came and picked me up from prison the day I was released in January 2024. I appeared as a guest speaker at TRAP's Walk to Reduce Recidivism held in June 2024. TRAP and Portia are evolving forces in the community. She and I plan to continue growing our partnership as we corner different markets to prevent incarceration and to combat recidivism. About the author, Leonard E. Love, the author and visionary behind Welcome to Prison, recently ended a 25-year federal prison sentence. He was released in January 2024. With 35 plus years of both street and prison life combined, Leonard has gained an immeasurable amount of insight and understanding to help educate others about crime, the streets, and prison life. Since the start of his incarceration over 21 years ago, Leonard has completely turned his life around and has made the choice to turn his negative circumstances into a positive outlet with the anticipation of preventing youth, men, and women from making the same mistakes that countless others have made that landed them in jails and prisons. From inside federal prison walls over the past 2 decades, Leonard has become a mentor to fatherless youth, at-risk teens, and incarcerated men. He has also mentored many fallen professional athletes, celebrities, millionaires, and politicians. As a rehabilitated man, Leonard wants to give back. Thus, the reason behind this educational book, Welcome to Prison. Additionally, as a jail and prison consultant, i.e., an expert in crime, jail, prison, and street life, he can give advice and provide guidance to families, children of the incarcerated, and anyone in society wanting to know the truth about incarceration on the following: how to support your incarcerated loved ones, how to look for certain behaviors and signs to tell if your teen is doing drugs or breaking the law, struggling with stress, anxiety, or depression as a result of an incarcerated loved one. Advice if your incarcerated loved one has a sex crime, prison relationships, including how to pick the right inmate to correspond with on a prison pen pal site, re-entry preparation for soon-to-be released inmates, educating women on how to deal with men in prison. Leonard is also the creator and instructor of an educational prison mentoring program titled Men 101 Mentoring. The program provides viable life and transitional skills to facilitate incarcerated men's reentry back into society and to combat recidivism. He is also the author of a forthcoming urban novel, Chameleon, a blogger, the creator of an educational blog site under development, LeonardElove.com, and the co-creator of a prison gift company, Inmate VIP. You can join his community of followers and stay informed of upcoming projects and events by visiting his Facebook page at facebook.com/Leonard E. Love Holdings, LLC. If you, a family member, or a friend have any questions or concerns about incarceration or need advice or guidance, Leonard can be reached via email at ask@leonardelove.com. The end.